Well, hi there, tubers, tubettes, and of course the various crazy people. Title of this video is Expats, the other white meat. And I'm going to try to approach this on two different levels. One, long distance relationships, and two, being here in person. And some of the snafus and pitfalls that I've fallen into. So I'll just go ahead and once again share some of my mistakes and inadequacies with everybody on the internet. So prior to coming out here, I did what I think is pretty atypical. While I was searching around for a place to zero in on when I decided to move to the Philippines, I still wasn't sure. Was I going to move to Cebu or Dumaguete and this and that? And I started to watch a lot of videos from guys living here. And I watched Ned from My Philippine Dreams. I watched Bud Brown. I watched another guy who's since passed away named Mike Kaysen. I forget the name of his, I think it was My Philippine Journey or something like that. And then I watched Rike from Life Beyond the Sea. And I was gleaning information from all those channels and decided via those channels that they had all talked so highly of Dumaguete that that's where I would land. And once I figured that out, I still was not familiar with all the islands and the land masses and the distances between this island and that island. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go online and see about chatting up some of the women and see if they can give me some information. My primary driver to come over here was not to get into a relationship. I was really and truly just on a fact-finding mission. And I thought, some local knowledge would be good. So, got on Facebook, and I was friends with a couple of Filipino girls, women, I should say. They have friends, and they have friends, and they have friends. And so via Facebook, over time, the way Facebook works is one person knows this person, and they just kind of multiplied. And the next thing I knew, over time, I was getting friend requests from a lot of females in the Philippines. And as I sifted through them and sorted along and this and that and the other, I found the whole process to really be very redundant. I would get messages that would say hi, and I would say hi, and then they would say something like, "What's your name? Where do you live? What do you do?" And I learned right away. It took me about a week because, like an idiot, I used to answer all those questions. And then it dawned on me that this is Facebook. They didn't even look at my profile. They didn't, because on my profile is what? My name, my age, where I live, what my job is. All these questions they're asking me, they could have taken a minute and looked at my profile. It didn't take me very long to figure out that if they didn't bother to look at my profile, they're just clicking on the fact that I live in America and I'm a white guy and an old guy, and they're bored, or they're a scammer, or they're not that bright. I don't know how to put it, but I found it to be really, really old. What was golden was every blue moon someone would say, oh, and when I did encounter those women, after, like I said, about a week, 10 days of all this nonsense, and I was still in the States, I just blocked them or put them on ignore or unfriended them. And, I don't want to play this anymore. It's too tiresome. I did meet women that would contact, and I never reached out to anybody. I always let them come at me, if you will. And I would meet them, and they would say, "Hi, Paul. How are you doing today there in Las Vegas?" And I go, "Oh, someone read my profile." And I would have a nice, pleasant conversation with them. I can say that I probably chatted with had conversations like that with anywhere between 75 and 125 different women, the 2 years or so prior to actually moving out here. I'm guilty of having sent some of them money, not vast amounts, probably a total of about $300 for load, or they would, have a story, and I was feeling empathetic, and I would send them $10 or $20, and to this day, I can look you in the blues and tell you that, let's just call it 100 women. I've never met any of them, and that money is just gone. And I'm one of the lucky ones, because that's a pittance compared to some of the emails that I've received lately. I've had one guy, the most recent guy that wrote me, said he spent $40,000 building a woman a house that he had met online. And this is pre-pandemic. And I think his email was kind of like something he just wanted to get off his chest, and he trusted me. And so anyway, he built this house, paid for this house, she built it. He went there to meet her, and she just told him not to come on the property. And if he did trespass, she'd call the police. No, I don't love you. No, I don't want to meet you. No, I don't want to be with you. I already have a boyfriend. I just use you for the money. And so, lesson learned there. And for every one of those stories, there's 100 good stories where people have met, and everything's just been rosy. I don't want to put the Filipinos or the Filipinas in this box that they seem to get trapped into as just being a bunch of scammers and users and this and that and the other. I would say that is the minority, just my own personal experience out here. But it does happen. And when I hear a number like $40,000, I think, wow, this guy got hosed. And I also think that it's his fault. And why do I think that? Because if you're being honest with yourself, if I was to send somebody $40,000 to build a house because I, quote unquote, wanted to give them a better lifestyle, I saw the poverty that they were living in, this and that and the other, would I have done it for a 65-year-old woman that was in the exact same shape? Or was the fact that she was 21 years old and I'm 65 or 62 or whatever I am, and she's a 9.5 out of a 10, she's the most beautiful thing you've laid eyes on. She was the one girl you could never, ever possibly get in high school, and she's telling you how handsome you are and how wonderful you are and telling you everything that you want to believe about yourself, and you're shelling out the money. Well, what's your agenda? Okay, is it because you're so kind and you're so passionate and you're so empathetic and you're such a nice guy? No, there's no such thing. And there's no such fool as an old fool. And so, to me, you kind of pretty much deserve what you get. I'm sorry to say that. It sounds so cold and it sounds so callous. But at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own actions. And that's just the truth. And if I was to have been the guy that sent the $40,000, it would have been because I wanted her, I wanted to impress her, I wanted to be with the girl of my dreams. I wasn't being sympathetic, I wasn't being empathetic. I was trying to buy her. I was trying to buy her love. I was trying to seal it. And so that is my take, if you will, on these long distance relationships. Not all of them. I'm going to give you an example of the flip side of that. I know a gentleman, I have not met him personally, but I've talked to him many times. And he started a long distance relationship with a woman. She met him at the plane. They've been together ever since. Happy as clams. I do know a gentleman, now that I think about it, Jerry, that used to live next to me. He, same thing, met his wife online. They talked for 5-6 months. He asked her every question under the sun. She asked him every question under the sun. They probably had more of a conversation in that 6 months than most married couples have over 30 years. I mean, they were intense. They were hours, and they're married, and they're totally happy and totally in love with each other. So there is the good side of the long distance relationships. But in both of the cases that I just quoted, there was no money changing hands. The woman never had her hand out. She never said, by the way, can you help me with this or can you help me with that? So I would call that a big red flag. A real intelligent thing that a guy did one time, at least I thought it was really intelligent, was a guy contacted me about a year ago. And he said, hey, can I send you some money or something like that to talk to you for 15 minutes about a private matter? I said, well, you can talk to me about the private matter, but I don't want your $15. Why don't we just have a 15-minute conversation? And he was, well, when would that work for you? I said, right now, because I'm just sitting here, doing nothing but scratching my balls. So he called me up. And I thought it was really intelligent because he had started a long distance relationship with some woman that I happen to know. And he had watched my YouTube channel. Him and I were friends on Facebook, rather. And he knew that she was my friend. And I think she had been in one of my videos or pictures or May's or someone. There was a connection there somewhere that he put two and two together that I knew her. And I did. May knows her, still does. We still know her to this day. And he says, I'm talking to her and I'm in Detroit, Michigan, and she's there and I'm coming out in a couple of years. And he goes, but I'm starting to send her some money and she's not having any problem taking it. And she's also not having any problem coming up with new reasons to send a few more dollars. And I said, okay. He says, can I get your honest opinion on this woman? He goes, man, she speaks great English. She's got a super personality, and she's so exotic looking because she's got that beautiful dark skin. I said, who is it? And he told me. And I said, okay, you want my honest opinion? He said, yeah. I said, run as far away from her as possible. And the reason I told him that was because I knew her. And I knew what her MO is. And May knows what it is. And it just is what it is. And so I think my good deed for that year was the fact that I probably saved this guy a few $1,000s because I knew how she operated and what she had done in the past with other guys. And there's other little stories that I could get into about other people, but why belabor it? I want to jump into showing up here when I first got here and being the other fresh white meat as I got off the plane. There must have been a sign over my head in neon that said, hey, I'm new and I don't know what's going on. Because and everybody that I met of the opposite sex, didn't matter where I went. Now you got to understand, this is almost 5 years ago. This was a whole different dynamic than what's going on now with the pandemic. But from Cebu, when I landed for the first 24 hours till I got to Dumaguete, to a doctor visit that I went on a week after I got into town or 10 days after I got into town, there was hardly any female that I interacted with on any level that at some point didn't say, hey, are you single? Why don't you have a girlfriend? And I would say, well, I just got here. It was just like their eyes would go like this. It's like fresh meat. Let me latch onto this guy as soon as possible before he gets his boots on the ground and understands what the dealio really is. So I went through a 6-month period of just making every flipping mistake that you can imagine. Not only did I hook up after the first couple of months here with a woman that I was introduced to that did nothing but work my bank account. And again, I own that. I let it happen, but I cut it off after firing 4 or 5 warning shots across her bow. that this money spending's got to stop. And she didn't stop. We parted company. And I did it the right way. I didn't throw her out. I gave her some money. I said, here, this is enough money to get home, or if you're going to stay here in town, you can go rent a place with, what's her name, whatever her friend's name was. Moral of that story, 3 days after she left, she was living with another foreigner, okay? The woman I met directly after her, that I was introduced to by a group of girls that worked at a certain restaurant bar, if you will, that I frequented. I liked it because it had air conditioning. They said, hey, where's your girlfriend? Meaning the girl that I just parted company with. They said, well, we split up. Oh, why'd you split up? Well, just didn't work out, this, that, and the other. Well, why don't you have another girlfriend? They go, well, it's only been like 38 minutes. She just split. I just came in for a burger. And the next day or two, they were saying, hey, this woman here really likes you, and she just wants you to know it. And she was gorgeous, and she was all this and that and the other, and like 3 or 4 different women were setting me up with this girl, and just telling me, yeah, what a great, this, that, the up. Turns out she had a Filipino boyfriend and 2 kids. That didn't get mentioned in the initial conversation. And I dated her for a number of weeks before a buddy of mine said, hey, I need to give you some bad information before I watch you take this too far. And so that was my initiation of being like a piece of fresh meat. So what's the point of this video? The point of this video is this. I hate to give advice, and I'm not going to do it now. I'm just going to tell my story, and I'm going to allow you to draw your own conclusion to it. But if I could go back in time, I would have done one simple thing. The LDR thing, like I said, no big deal. It wasn't any life-changing amount of money or anything like that. I've just heard stories after story after story where guys have really been raked over the coals. And again, I want to emphasize, not all Filipinos are like that. There's always a bad apple in every bunch. The majority are great people. I really want to emphasize that. If I had it to do all over again, 2 words is what I would burn into my brain. Slow down. Just slow down. Remember why you came here. You didn't come here to meet anybody. It's just been temptation that's been thrown in front of you. And I'm a human being subject to temptation and fell for it. But slow the F down. Get your apartment, Paul. Settle in. If you meet somebody, awesome. But get to know them and do a little bit of research about them. Ask them poignant questions. I think the first thing I would do if I met somebody and I was over here brand new, I would ask to go to wherever they lived. Show me your boarding house. Let me see where you live. In other words, I would know if they wouldn't do it, well, then there's a reason. Like the boyfriend and the 2 kids. That's a pretty good reason not to take you over there. Trust but verify. Do due diligence. Coming over here, meeting baby May is the greatest thing that ever happened. And you know what? I was here for over 2 years, making mistake after mistake after mistake until I met baby May. And the only reason that her and I are together is because we were actually introduced by a third party, her best friend that was dating my friend. So there was no Facebook, there was no Filipino Cupid involved, there was no hi, hello, how are you single, are you married? blah, blah, blah. There was none of that between her and I. And I think that is why I would say slow down, acclimate, get used to the territory. Doesn't mean you can't talk to people, doesn't mean you can't go on dates, doesn't mean you can't hook up. I'm not telling anybody how to live their life. I'm just telling you, if I could go back in time and review how I did things, tomorrow's going to come, and enjoy today for what it is. And remember to keep your eye on the prize. For me, I wanted to stop working. I wanted to chill out. I wanted to stop showing up. I wanted to get rid of Groundhog Day, and boy, did I. And to be honest with you, I'm going to wrap this up right now, but to be honest with you, I don't think I would, being hindsight being 2020, I don't think I would change any of it, just to be honest with you, because it taught me so much. I couldn't have gotten, to where I am today, which is very happy, settled in, relaxed, much more confident than if I hadn't have crawled across some broken glass along the way. Okay, as usual, guys, I hope this video finds you well, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.